So now that gives us our married filing separately returns. And again, this is one where your spouse is doing something shady. So right here, if you're familiar with this show, you know she's an innocent spouse for the most part. And so she should probably file separate from her husband, Walter, here to help avoid any joint liability issues. And so that is one of the main reasons you want to file, is to get that separate liability. She'll report her W-2 from her accounting job on her tax return, and that's all she'll be responsible for. And then Walter here, he'll do whatever Walter's going to do, and he'll be responsible for that part. But that will give her a little freedom from being involved in the things that Walter was involved in. Community property laws, again, they screw things up big time because now you've got to split stuff 50-50. If they lived in a community property state, she would have to take half of her W-2 and put it on his tax return, and he would have to take half of his quote unquote business and put on her tax return. So community property laws really screw this up, and I really hope one day the IRS will change that rule. Married filing separately rarely results in lower taxes. You know, before Bush Jr. did away with the marriage penalty issues, we would often have to file tax returns, or not file, we would have to compare tax returns as both married filing jointly and married filing separately to try and figure out which way gave us the best tax liability. But now with the marriage penalty being removed, married filing separately is rarely used unless you're trying to avoid the shady spouse syndrome. If you are abandoned, and that's the word the IRS uses, that's their verbiage, not mine. If you're abandoned, which means you haven't lived with your spouse for the last 6 months of the year and you're caring for a dependent child, you can be treated as abandoned, and you qualify for a head of household filing status, which we'll talk about next.